This video is brought to you by Storyblocks. So it's officially here. I've got in my hand the Pocket 6K Pro, and I know a lot of you guys have had a lot of questions about it, and you probably heard about a lot of the problems and some of the drama going around about this camera. And so in this video, we're gonna be looking at my first-hand experience, but also we're gonna go ahead and address a lot of the drama that this camera has been cooking up. What's good, creative fam? Brandon Washington here, and we're gonna make this video really simple. I personally have had this camera for a little over a week now, and I've been shooting it non-stop. And over that time, I've gotten a chance to really understand some of the issues that people are having, but also realizing where this camera really fits into Blackmagic's overall system. So first, let's talk about the things that got me hyped, starting with the built-in NDs. Now, I have been instantly spoiled when shooting with the C70, having built-in NDs, to the point to where every camera I shoot with, I want it to have built-in NDs. They're just super, super nice. And I know you can use a matte box, and I know you can use a variable ND filter, and those are all great. But there's something special about having built-in NDs on your camera. It just makes getting your proper exposure that much easier. Now, built-in NDs isn't just where this camera shines, it also shines now with battery life. We're gonna touch on some of the problems with the battery life, but up front, I love that they have decided to go with the Sony NP batteries on this camera. I can say, confirmed right now, it does make a difference. Now, this is not it. This is actually not even the best part. The best part about this new camera has to be the articulating screen. I love that this camera has an articulating screen because there's so many times where I'm trying to get a shot and I'm just not directly behind the camera. It's just not possible. Whether you're getting high angles or low angles, you need a screen that swivels, which is why most of the time I end up having to bring out a secondary monitor just to use with my pocket cameras. Now, yes, they added all these new things, but probably the quintessential moment that let me know that this camera was still gonna reign supreme across most cameras out there today had to be the price tag. It's actually the price of the original 6K. I know, it's $2,500. So you're getting a 6K shooting Blackmagic RAW producing camera that has all these extra features built in, an amazing sensor, and you're getting it for such an affordable price. Personally, that really shocked me about this camera, but the problem with having a camera that's so great and at such a great price point might come into the actual manufacturing of this camera, because this is where we're starting to see a lot of drama. I think one of the first issues that I heard about with this camera was the fact that the monitors were having problems. Some people were reporting that one monitor would look very warm and then another camera would look very cool. In fact, one of my other favorite YouTubers, Mateo, posted an entire little like side-by-side of his two 6K Pros showing this exact same problem. And what I found interesting was that when I got my camera, I actually had the same issue. My screen looked very cool, but you can definitely tell the difference when you're actually trying to get white balance based off of your eye. The camera is so cool that you really can't trust your eye when it comes to getting proper white balance. So either you're gonna have to shoot in RAW, or you're gonna have to just know your white balance or meter your white balance in order to make sure you're getting the proper white balance for your camera. Now, that was only the first problem that we heard about. The next problem came in with some people having issues with color shifting on their NDs. Now, thankfully, I have not had this problem with my NDs. So my question becomes, is this something that could possibly be adjusted through software updates? Maybe it's something where the tint can actually be adjusted or something can happen there. I'm not a technical person in this area, but I would love to see them be able to make an adjustment here when it comes to this particular problem through software. And the last issue that I heard some people complaining about was the battery life. Now, I talked already about how, yes, they did switch over to NP batteries, but there are still some minor issues with the battery. One of the big ones that I personally have been dealing with is the fact that you don't get an exact percentage readout when it comes to using the batteries. The other issue that I've been having with this camera when it comes to battery is the fact that it will go from being fully charged to like a notch drop down, because they're not giving me percentage, so I'm just going based off what it looks like, but a notch drop down in just a matter of minutes. But then just a few more minutes later, it'll go to red, where it looks like the camera is about to die. But then it'll stay in that red state for almost an hour, which just completely blows my mind. So I'm not actually getting an accurate readout of how much battery life I have left. Now, typically this wouldn't be an issue. I would just bring a ton of batteries, and when it died, I would just do a quick battery swap. But the problem where this really comes into play is because something that this camera does that my 6K never did. See, on my 6K, if the battery died while filming, it would actually just save that file, and then I could just swap my battery, and I would know that I had that file even if the battery died while filming. With a 6K Pro, that doesn't happen. If the battery dies while you're filming, you literally lose that clip. And I only know that because I had to deal with it personally. So yes, there are some major issues with this camera, and a lot of it seems to just be with manufacturing and possibly software. So hopefully, and my fingers are crossed here, that we can get a software update that can fix all of these problems. I'm just not sure if that is something that has to be done through hardware or has to be done through software. Now, putting some of those things aside for just a moment, let's talk about some of the things that makes this camera really worth the price. The first being the overall build. We've already talked about all the new things that Blackmagic has added to this camera, but one thing that I love about them adding all these things to this camera is the fact that I legitimately don't feel like I need to rig this camera. As you guys know, with the 4K and the 6K, I have rigged those cameras out to death. Whether it's a small rig or it's a big rig, whether it's using V-mount batteries or another system, monitors, you name it, I have rigged these cameras out crazily in order to get them to work for me. And I love the fact that with this 6K Pro, I don't feel the need to do that. Because of the swivel screen, because of the better battery, because of the built-in NDs, that cuts off a lot of the things I would normally put onto these cameras in order to get them to shoot the way I want them to shoot. Now, obviously, with this camera having all these things built in, it is bigger. It feels actually better as well, but with it being bigger, that doesn't stop it from being able to be used in a lot of the areas that my 6K and 4K were able to be used. For example, I can still get this camera to balance on my gimbal. I have the Ronin RS2, and this thing balances on it like a champ. So if you have that gimbal, or if you're thinking about getting that gimbal mixed with this camera, you will be able to balance it. Just be careful of the lens that you put on here. I will say, like, the Canon 16-35 L series f2.8 lens is too heavy to balance on here, but I have been able to get my Laowa 12mm zero distortion lens to balance on this camera on the gimbal with no problem. Now, I don't think we could talk about this camera without bringing up the image quality. Now, if you've seen any 6K videos, or really even this video right now is being shot on the Pocket 4K, you know that Blackmagic just produces a beautiful image, and this camera is no different. The image that comes out of this camera is absolutely stunning, and you wouldn't expect anything less. Now, one nice addition to the image quality that comes out of this camera is the fact that now with this one in particular, you can shoot in 4K in Blackmagic RAW, which is a nice addition because, let's face it, sometimes you don't want to have to shoot in 6K in order to use RAW. Sometimes 4K is good enough. Now, before we jump into my final thoughts on this camera and is it really worth the price versus just picking up a 4K, I want to quickly thank today's video sponsor, Storyblocks. So Storyblocks is an all-in-one platform that allows you to download an unlimited amount of stock video. But they don't just have stock video. They also have different text animations and graphics, whether you're using Final Cut or Premiere or even After Effects. They also have music. The best part is that for one low monthly fee, you're able to have access to unlimited download of their over 1 million assets. I'll have links down below in the description if you want to check them out, because I personally think that they're not just good for helping you create your own personal content, but it really can come in handy when you're using it to create your client projects. So links down below to check out Storyblocks. But now let's jump into, is it worth it to pick up this camera? See, as far as I'm concerned, having all these extra add-ins on this camera are fantastic. But having all of the problems that are currently kind of shrouded around this camera is a bit of an issue. Now, when I looked at this camera at $2,500, which personally I think is a fantastic value, it made me start thinking about the 4K again. Just because I know that right now you can purchase a 4K on Amazon for $1,300, and that would include an additional battery and memory card, which in and of itself is a great value. But what if you wanted to be able to get that camera to kind of stand up to the 6K Pro? What would it cost? So here's how this list breaks down. So we have our camera with an additional battery, which kind of helps with battery life, and our media, which we're not even gonna address on the 6K Pro. But let's start looking at all the other added bonuses, starting with the monitor. So first of all, yes, the 6K Pro has the swivel monitor, but on 4K, you would need to purchase a monitor. Now, we could definitely go cheap here and buy a monitor for like $100, but I figured let's splurge a little bit, and let's go with the Ninja 5. This is a fantastic monitor, and if you ever want to use it as one, it could also be a backup recorder. So this thing runs for around $595. So we'll add that to the line item. Next, we need to go ahead and take care of that pesky ND problem. See, the 6K Pro has built-in ND, so we're gonna need to find an ND system for our 4K, and I decided to go with the Tiffin variable ND. This is actually an ND filter that I have, and I absolutely love it, and I use it all the time, especially for my cameras that don't have built-in variable NDs. So I like to go ahead and add this to our line item as well. Next, let's go ahead and solve the mount issue. A lot of reasons why people like to go with the 6Ks or the 6K Pro for that matter is because they have an EF mount. Now, this is gonna be a part of their Super 35mm sensor. So with the Micro Four Thirds sensor on the 4K, you not only have more of a crop, but then you're also having to deal with Micro Four Thirds lenses. Well, this is where something like my Metabone Speed Booster is really gonna come in handy. Not only is this gonna give you the EF mount, but it's also gonna give you a wider frame of view. In fact, it's actually gonna give you a slightly wider frame of view than even Super 35, actually being a bit closer to full frame. So when it comes to which one should you go with, it really is up to you, but personally I think that they both have fantastic value propositions. I would love to see Blackmagic come out with a software update, or at least make a statement and give us some type of update of what's gonna happen with the 6K Pro. I love what they've done with it. I just think there's some quality control issues that need to be resolved. I hope this video helped you guys out, and I know that this is still just my first look at this camera. I am working on a full-fledged review, and I hope you guys are going to want to stick around and see that, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.